Hi, everyone. Just want to welcome you to my live as we talk about a very common area of concern when prophetic people have negative dreams, especially when you have one about your nation. And actually, this discussion came from one of my online mentorship groups, and somebody in the online mentorship actually had a negative dream about their nation, didn't quite know what to do, was asking for some counsel, some advice on how to process this. And I said, this is a really common question, one that other people would want to know about and would want to know that answer. So I'm going to actually do a Facebook Live or a social media live, something in that regard to actually answer that, because I think it's something that many people would want to know about. And so before we go there, I do want to talk to you about something new that I'm doing. I'm opening two prophetic companies. These are actually test flight communities. They're going to be 5 months test flighting this and working out some of the kinks and seeing how things go. Ideally, I like to have it as an annual community, but this is what I want to start off with. There are two different ones. One is for the USA Global Group. That'll be one group. And then another group will be more Australian, New Zealand, and different topics also. They're not combined, separate groups, separate topics. And so you can actually go to jenniferevaz.com and you can see where the links are, and you can check out what it's all about, because the Holy Spirit's been speaking to me. He says he's doing a reset in the prophetic community. He's doing a reformation or a renewal, that kind of thing. Just reculturizing it. Of course, doing what the Bible says, but there's some cultural aspects that need to be reset. And so the prophetic companies that I'm going to be opening, two key values, just right at the onset, I want to let you know, is number one, we believe that the gift of prophecy and the gift of wisdom must always be joined together. And then the second one is that the primary purpose, the priority of the gift of prophecy is to introduce people to Jesus Christ who don't know him, and to do it in a supernatural way. So those are the priorities. Everything's going to be really shaped around those things. And so check it out, jenniferevaz.com. And I'd love to have you be a part of that. We're going to open them in August, but you're going to want to register now. Price goes up in a couple weeks. So check it out and join us. All right. All right. So again, back to this topic. When prophetic people, when they have a negative dream, when it's about your nation, how do you process that? What do I do with that? Great question. I'm glad we got that question today. And so I'm going to give you a couple things with this. And so here's the thing. If you're a person that dreams a lot, like dreams have meaning to you, you have enough dreams come to pass, like you'll dream them and then they'll actually happen. When you have a dream like this, it's concerning, because you have a track record. You have enough of a track record that you're going to be paying attention, saying, okay, I wonder if this is something that's actually going to happen. And the thing is, it gets into your emotions, and depending on what's going on in your nation, we can, jump into some conclusions right off the bat, because our emotions are spinning and we have enough of a track record, and our eyes are glued on God, because things are happening in our nation that's causing us a lot of anxiety. And so these kind of dreams, they will come, but we need to ask some questions before we presume things and presume action on dreams like this before we've actually tested them and tested the source and the spirit of it, and discussed a wisdom plan to coincide with a dream like this. Okay. And so we want to ask ourselves, how do we test a dream like that, especially if it's pointing to something in our nation? I'm going to give you 3 points, and with each point, there's going to be some sub points. All right. So in case you're going to watch this video again, or you're able to take some notes right now wherever you're at, 3 points and then some sub points under those 3 points. Okay, so the first point is, what are your conditions? Okay, those are the things I want to know. If you have a dream like this and I know you, and you're sharing a dream with me, like this on this level. I'm gonna want to know, what are your conditions? All right. How is your accuracy with dreams? Do you have accurate dreams? Or is this just, every once in a while you have an accurate dream? We really want to ask that question. Is this like something that happens to you a lot? And it does come to pass, and you're one of those people. Most people, dreams do have meaning, but they're not necessarily a prophetic dream. They're not necessarily literal. They're pointing to something. They're pointing to, they need to be action, but they're not necessarily going to happen. Okay, so we want to ask that question, really weigh that out. And then the second, the next sub point is, do you have proper spiritual covering, especially when it comes to things about our nation? I really am not going to hear a dream like that from somebody who's not under a proper spiritual covering, not under an apostolic covering, and a strong one at that, because it has to do with the nation. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a little buzz off my phone here. Let me shut that off. And so it has to do with the nation. So I'm looking at governmental authority, okay, because really dreams like this about your nation, I mean, that's huge. Okay, if it's really coming from God, I'm going to be checking your spiritual weight to see if it's valid or not. And a lot of people, they have dreams about their nation, but they really don't carry any authority. They're not under authority, and they just don't have those things in place. And so, when that's happening, I'm probably not going to validate it. And then the next sub point is, again, talking about your conditions. Who you are is like, are you a prophet? Or do you have the simple gift of prophecy, which every believer in Jesus can flow in the simple gift of prophecy, but not everybody is a prophet, even if you prophesy accurately. It's different governmental authority, different spiritual authority, and the kind that only Jesus settles that. We can't decide that on our own, and so that's another condition that I'm going to be checking. And then finally, again, conditions. What is your sphere of authority? Most people don't have the spear of a nation. Okay, they're part of a corporate body. They're part of the church in their nation, but they don't carry the leadership sphere of authority. And so I'm going to hear dreams differently because of those conditions. Okay, so these are some questions that we really want to honestly ask ourselves, because a lot of times, if we have a deficit within our self-esteem, not really knowing who we are in God, not content in who we are in God, we would take something like this and perhaps might be driven to elevate ourselves in the eyes of people, just because we have a deficit within ourselves. And so we have to get very honest with what our conditions are, who we are, our coverings, our sphere of authority, those kind of things. That really does decide a lot about what we should do with that dream. Okay. Then the next point is, what is the source of the dream? So it's going to be generally three different sources, one of them, and we need to decide that source. So let's say the source of this dream came from God. Well, one of the ways we can tell is, if it came from God or not, is that you may have a dream like this, but your faith won't be depleted. Your hope won't be depleted. Actually, you'll have a sense of faith. You'll have a sense of hope. Redemption and compassion will start to stir in you, because these kind of dreams, when they come from God, it's because you're being called into intercession. You're being called into partnership with Jesus, who died for nations. Okay. He died, so that people would know him. He didn't die so he could just destroy them. Okay. And that's just a really weird thing, and a really weird mentality that people still adopt on this side of the cross when it comes to these kind of dreams. And so, so we know what Jesus did. We know what his heart is. And so if a dream like this comes, it's simply a call to intercession to avert a potential hazard, that could happen without the prayers and the intercession of God's church on the earth. And you better believe me, he's going to send those dreams and make sure he has his people praying. And so we want to be those watch persons, and able to be put on demand from the Lord, if he needs that. The second source is it could be a demonic dream. Okay, now Satan knows spiritual laws, and you should too. And so Satan, what he wants to do with the believers, with God's church, is he wants to harness your mouth, and he wants to harness your faith, and he wants to put a narrative inside of you, and he'll use that dream realm if he can, get into your dream life, and he does on occasion. If he can get in, okay, he wants to put that narrative in you, so that you'll give voice to it. Because the spiritual laws are this, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And if you can get enough, Christians, enough believers who have spiritual authority, if you can get enough of them saying a certain thing, saying a certain narrative, it'll empower his demons to go destroy. Okay, so don't take the bait of that. And you'll know it's demonic because you won't have any hope. Faith will leave you. You'll be put into a state of fear. That's a demonic dream. Okay, it really is. Because you can tell by what's happening inside of you, and it will be very emotional. And because it's so emotional, you might misinterpret that and think, "Oh, that must have been from God." Well, you have no faith. You're totally quaking in fear, or you're angry and you want to destroy the nation. You want to be like Jonah and see those Ninevites destroyed. That's not the heart of God at all. Okay. All right. And then the third thing is, the third source is it could be you. All right. If you're watching a lot of negative news, if you're watching a lot of negative social media, especially about your nation, it gets into you. And that dream could be you processing out your emotions that got stirred up one direction or another, and it could be processing that out, and it will happen in your dreams. So you just need to be very honest with yourself. It's like, okay, what have I been feeding my heart with? And so if you've been feeding your heart with that, and anxieties come into you, that could very well be just a dream that you are emotionally processing something. Okay, so that's the second point. The third point is, what do I do? What do I do when I have a dream that's negative? And I'm a prophetic person. Okay, well, if you've determined that the source is God, it is appropriate to take it to your trusted prayer group, your discreet prayer group, people who are mature and faith filled, their prayer group, and go ahead and pray it out. I would do that. I have prayer people that I can say stuff like this to, and we will pray it out. And I have before. I have in the past that I had this dream, and it's something we need to pray into. But I just kept it with the prayer group. That's it. Okay, because these are faith people. These are people who have a heart for nations, who want to see nations redeemed, who want to see God's best in nations, and for evil destroyed and people to know Jesus. Okay, they have that heartbeat, and so I would definitely take something like this to them, if I felt like I needed more than just myself praying it out. Okay, the second sub point to that, what do I do? Okay, the second sub point is you don't want to put it on social media. Okay, now I want you, if you're from outside the USA, I want you to learn from our big mistakes that we made prophetically in the last season. Okay, I felt like this topic is really good to bring now because we're dialing down and we're chilled out. We're in a better place. Okay, but we weren't in a good place 6 months ago. We weren't in a good place last year, not at all. Okay, and so what was happening is people were emotionally processing dreams. They were having demonically sourced dreams, and they were putting it on social media with no processing from prophetic people, no idea or thought at all about how this was going to stir people up. Some things went so viral, it was sickening, and it's just really not wise. Okay, remember, the gift of prophecy and wisdom must always run together. It was very unwise, very foolish for people to put these things out into a medium, into an arena where there's no pastoral covering. You can't pastor people through it. It's just very, very irresponsible. And it happened from people who knew better. They shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. Okay. And so, again, it started stirring all this stuff up and caused people, to get into fear and anxiety and give voice to things that they should not have given voice to. So we don't put it on social media. You'll want to, just don't. Okay, that is very, very irresponsible. Again, if you've just watched a lot of negative media, a lot of negative social media, again, these are things that are probably emotionally processing. I remember after the presidential inauguration, okay, when Joe Biden was officially inaugurated. And so what happened is I told all of my prophetic people, anybody who was under my covering, I told all of them, I said, for 2 weeks, I said, you are not to prophesy. And that's because the whole nation was divided. The whole nation was in high emotions and all that kind of stuff. And I just know prophetic people. They're going to have these emotional dreams. And they're going to be all sorts of stuff. And they're, because they're prophetic, they're going to think it's the Lord, and they're going to want to put it on social media without any sort of regard at all, because they're processing. And I told them, I said, you're not prophesying, you're processing. I said, so for 2 weeks, don't say a word. So really, when you see persecution of the church, what will happen is one situation will happen, or maybe a few. And the news media, depending on which one that you watch, they're going to play it again and again and again and again. It's one scene, but it's again and again and again. And it'll get into you, okay? And you will want to put it on social media. Don't do it. I remember this was a few years back. I was going to do some ministry in Florida, and there was a hurricane. It was like terrible. This like Cat 5 or 4 hurricane. They're predicting it was a 5. And what it was is they showed this video again and again, the eye of the storm. They showed it again and again all over the globe about what was going to happen in Florida. They showed this thing. All right. And then they showed, the shelves being emptied in the grocery stores, and, kind of like this vacant look, bleak look over the land in that area. And they showed it on the media over and over and over again. And I've got a ministry gig going over there. I'm like, I've got to fight. So I called the ministry leader over there. I said, what are the conditions? And she says, oh, we're believing that it's going to be fine. I said, I have this weird piece. I have a piece about it that I should actually fly into the Cat 5 storm and still do this ministry conference. I don't know what it is. She says, come. And so I flew into this thing. I got out of the plane. It was sunshine. It was beautiful. There was no storm, nothing. I think we saw 20 minutes of rain the whole weekend. This is what media does. All right. And so, you have to recognize that you're being shown these images and these things. And if you're prophetic, okay, what you behold, you become, and it gets into you, and it becomes very confusing. It becomes a narrative that God did not author. And you have to be very, very careful about this. Okay. So this is why we're going to take these kind of things off of social media. You have to do that. I know you want to. It's not the arena for it. And we're going to be responsible. We're going to pair prophecy with wisdom and test all things. Okay. All right. So what do we do with negative dream? There you go. I just gave you the lowdown on what to do with it. And it really helps when you have a company of people that you can actually process these things out in a private forum, so that you don't make the huge mistakes that we did in the last season here in America. We made huge mistakes prophetically. There is a reset happening in the prophetic community. There is a reformation. There is a renewal happening. Join the prophetic company. Check it out, jenniferevaz.com. Thank you so much.